Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation today. I'm Neal Stimler, president of Stimler Advantage, and I'm delighted to be joined by my friends, Christa and Jason at Objects in Order. And today we're going to be talking about their SaaS product, which is used for building collections and exhibitions online for creators, scholars, artists, and anyone interested in bringing their world into creative view. So, Christa and Jason, welcome and thanks for joining me.
Neil, thank you so much for being here and for talking with us about the terrific article that you wrote about objects in order.
Yes, we should mention this is based on an article that's available on the Objects in Order website under resources, which includes additional articles about the platform. And I'm delighted to be the first guest author and contributor to the website. And this is a continuation of that. So you can go find that there on the website as well. What is Objects in Order? And of course, we'll ask our founders and creators here in a second, but simply you can think about it as a digital organization system for creators, collectors, and scholars. But let's talk to the creators. How would you define it?
Objects in Order is a system for anyone who works with objects. So whether you're on a museum team, you're a collector, an artist organizing a studio, or a scholar that's managing a research project. If it involves objects and recording data and gathering images and other media, that's exactly what our system is built for.
And it's an object first centralized system for storing and managing all the content around your objects. So think of it like a content management system, but built specifically around those objects and collections.
And that's why we call it an object system.
Right.
Excellent. And Christian and Jason wanted to share some perspectives on their use of open access.
Absolutely. So on our site and in our demonstrations and our videos, you'll see open access and open content images shared by museums across the US. And we are always grateful to showcase these beautifully photographed, incredible works of art.
Yes, that's a terrific thing. And as some of you may know who are watching, I've been involved with open access projects at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Smithsonian Institution, and the Cleveland Museum of Art, and have worked over the years with Wikimedia communities and other open access groups to bring this content to the world. So I too send my gratitude and support to those institutions that are making their collections more available to the world. This is an example of something that demonstrates the impact of open access and how it actually helps create and foster new businesses, new entrepreneurial approaches, and new scholarly creation. So thanks so much, everybody, for doing that. So first, we wanted to start off in the article about what is the challenge? Why do we need a system like Objects in Order, and think through some of the issues that kind of get in our way?
So whenever you're working with objects, you're going to have data, images, and other assets like PDFs, video, audio files. And we wanted to create a central space for all that knowledge, everything that you've created around your objects. And then you can take that data and media and share it with the world as an exhibition or as a content module.
So it's about pulling together everything around the object itself. So as you upload content and assets for an object, they all stay connected to that object. So when you use it elsewhere in the system, all of the data and media and assets come along with it. So everything is applicable and useful throughout the entire platform.
That's terrific. And I think this really speaks to sort of the core principle, just going back to basics, the essentials, that Objects in Order is a system that's about helping us understand our world, right? And our interests and our curiosities and whatever it is that we're studying, researching, or making. So it's building that collection to make sense of the world, right? We often think of artists, people who create works of art to help us understand and interpret our world. We think of writers and authors whose manuscripts help us do similar works, musicians and their scores. And we think about maybe an archive, a collection of papers of an important person whose intellectual life has contributed to a better understanding of the world. So this is a system that helps us process those things. So just thinking about this is a system to help us process our understanding.
It's a really nice way to put it. Thank you, Neil.
Sure. So one of the challenges that we face too is, as Christa just mentioned, we have all kinds of stuff that we're trying to organize. We have physical objects that have been digitized or not digitized. Maybe they have an inventory number or some information, but they don't yet have a picture or they don't have a 3D model yet. We have digitized archives. So that paper example I mentioned before of a collection of archival papers. All of us have now been experiencing a born digital world where things are created digitally for the first time as opposed to being digitized in some other format. And then you could even use this in a way to think about abstract concepts. So exhibitions that are made in all different types of institutions like libraries, science centers, museums, archives, special collections. There's so many different concepts around which people organize their diverse subject matter and want to communicate that. So this is a challenge that a system like Objects in Order can tackle What do you guys think?
Definitely. Our system is designed to be incredibly flexible. So whether you're working with rare books at a library, archival materials, or any other kind of collection, you can customize the system to fit your specific workflows.
Every collection has unique needs. And from a technical perspective, not every data point applies to every type of object. So the system needed to be flexible enough to handle very different types of collections. It expands and contracts based on what your needs actually are.
Exactly. And when I work with my clients as a consultant, Jason, I'm often working with different types of institutions, but they do have things in common. So
Yeah.
when you're designing something as a software solution, right, you need it to be both extensible and flexible enough, but also have a core set of features that can be used interchangeably or in the variable conditions of any environment. And I think that's one of the unique things, especially about this particular application, is it's not just for one vertical or for one sector. It really is meant to support institutions that also have multiple of these entity types within them. So, right, so if we think about great museums of the world, they also probably have an archive. They also have a research library. They also have a special collection. They may have conservation research they want to publish. So sometimes you're dealing with organizations that are embody multiple institutions in one, and they all need to compile and share that information. I can remember an example of my time working at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. We collaborated a lot with the Thomas J. Watson Library, one of the world's great art research libraries, and we were using books from their library, but also artworks from the museum, right? We needed a place to share that with the public. So this is an example of how you can kind of use that interchangeably. So let's talk about the creative commitment. I mean, one of the things that we're thinking about here with creating exhibitions is we're trying to transform something, a simple administrative task, organizing our activities and our stuff, and get into that deeper understanding. So help the tools help us get out of our own way and get to the good stuff, get to the creativity. So Christa, as an art historian yourself, talk about that process as a scholar, maybe for yourself when you're thinking about your users, how you're thinking about that empathetically for them.
Yeah, well, we want the experience to be incredibly intuitive. So you can start the way that you would begin a presentation. You add your content as you go. You do not need to have all your objects and text ready before you begin, and the process is really meant to be iterative. You could get started in an afternoon and then keep adding over time and shape it as you go. And we want it to feel user-friendly and user-focused from the very beginning.
Fantastic. So let's talk about formatting, right? This is always, we've already hit on this a little bit, but we have so many different types of things that we're transferring between different formats. And I think one of the things that's special for me about objects in order and meeting some of these challenges are in the case of exhibition building, which of course, Chris, I'd love to hear, your passion more about that in just a moment. But when we think about a physical exhibition in a space, in a gallery, right, there's a lot of wonderful things that it can do for visitors. It can present them information. It can show them wonderful works of art, wonderful historical objects, archival ephemera, informational panels. But it's how do we connect those things to the online space too? Because we know that in most cases, maybe the exception is an exhibition that's wildly popular in a major metropolitan city that a lot of people can go visit. But a lot of times we have a limited number of visits on site that only people can come to for a temporary period of time, and the exhibition has to close. But here, with objects in order, your exhibition can live on, and it can grow. And it can be edited and changed. So I'd be interested to hear, thinking of how we break down those silos of the physical and the print and the digital, and what this tool can do for us.
Thank you. Well, that's really a great way to frame it. So when you present a physical exhibition, you create all these interpretive and educational materials. So you have labels, audio files, videos, and our system helps an exhibition continue after closing day. So you can create a digital version using all those assets that you already have. And it's great for people who saw it in person and who want to revisit. And it's especially great for those people who simply could not make it during the time that the exhibition was on view.
And I think a lot of digital exhibitions and exhibition builders default to replicating the physical space online. So, but what we think is valuable is having a companion exhibition site alongside a physical one. So visitors could access it right from the gallery for more detail on what they're seeing. And then after the show closes, it lives on for anyone who couldn't attend in person.
And we really want these to be compelling experiences. So it's a choose your own adventure approach. It's not just unlimited scrolling or a slideshow.
Well, I mean, you could unlimited scroll if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Your
It
exhibition
really is.
content is so compelling and people are diving in. That's terrific. That's the thing to celebrate. The other thing I think about too, Krista, is for those scholars, this is maybe getting a little deeper in the weeds, that are passionate about exhibition history. And I know you have a passion for that as well. And one of the challenges that scholars face is, I know there was this exhibition 5 years ago. It used to be on the website of the institution. It's no longer there, or the images or some of the articles that they wrote for the website are no longer available to me. And so that's frustrating, right, for historians who are trying to engage and use digital tools that are passionate about preserving a sense of the past and documenting, again, the intellectual life of the scholarly practice of making exhibitions. So I think this is a good time to talk about that just for a moment.
Well, that's actually a really perfect segue. So first, I'll just mention briefly that we do have a tool on our site called XCAT, EXHCAT. And so we've been cataloging past, present, future, and digital exhibitions. We have over 15,000 exhibitions right now. And so exhibition history is something that we are personally deeply invested in. And then within our system, users can easily document and record exhibition history. And then, of course, if they create a digital version of a presentation, that's another way that they can preserve and document an exhibition for posterity.
Right.
So let's talk about digital integration a little bit. So leveraging our contemporary environment where assets are shared and reimagined. And I think that speaks broadly to digital culture, where for many of us on a mobile device or on a browser and a desktop, we can easily share content, whether that be a picture or an audio file, a video, a document we're working on. And many of us are in the habit of working that way and living that way every day, whether it's sharing something personal with our friends or family or with our work colleagues when we're collaborating on a document or a presentation. And so having a tool set that reflects that kind of cultural expectation in a digital culture, I think is really important. And to me, objects in order meets that challenge. So maybe Jason, can you talk about that from your software engineering perspective of taking something that we use in our daily life and applying it to building a system like this?
I mean, we're all constantly moving digital content around from emails to websites to social media. So being able to capture all that that within the platform in a flexible way allows you to use your data and assets in other formats too. So the goal is not to be an information silo. You should be able to access and then utilize your content or assets. So our system facilitates this.
Speaking of that output and input, let's talk about fluidity for a second. So sometimes many of us that have been using various collections management or exhibition management or digital asset management systems over the years, we can know it can be painful sometimes to get assets in and out. But I think Objects in Order, you've built a platform that facilitates that workflow in different ways. Maybe Jason, you can talk about the technical, but Krista, be interested for you to talk about what that means from an exhibition making standpoint and how that is a where this tool is not a burden, it's a benefit to solving that problem.
Well, we do want it to be a benefit, and we want it to be as flexible as possible. So if you are organizing a physical exhibition, you might have fields for mat color, frame style, other details. And then you can still include the fields that you need for a digital exhibition as well. So it's just meant to be iterative, fluid, and adaptable to whatever you're working on.
Yeah, and that bridge is built into the system itself. So exporting your data and assets is straightforward and flexible, like she said. So object data can be exported as CSV or JSON. You can import some things too, obviously. You can reuse object data and assets throughout the system. So like in an exhibition. And you can always download files in the original size and format. So it's super flexible.
So let's talk more about the opportunity. We've been hitting on that some, talking about the challenges, but it's always good to say more positive things about what we're doing here. So this is, I think, really a key thing for people to know is this is a modern application. It's a modern web application. It's ready to go. It's usable out of the box once you start using the platform. As we've been saying, it's agile, it's flexible, and it's scalable. To the agility piece, one of the things we'll talk about a bit more in a moment is that Krista and Jason have a roadmap that shows people how the platform is developing. They're also open to feedback about making the platform better, hearing from their users, which is super important. And the scalable piece, I think, is also really exciting, right? If we think about the constraints typically that may be happening in a physical exhibition space, it's wall space. It's the number of objects I can fit into a room. It's the number of labels I can print before we have to get this done. This is a system that allows that flexibility and scale. So I don't know if you have any more to add to that.
Yes, flexibility and scalability are absolutely crucial. So from the very beginning, our core principle was that users should never feel constrained by the system.
Yeah.
They can shape it for whatever they need. And we do recognize that needs change over time and that standards change over time. And that's why people can bring their own vocabulary and their own standards. It is really meant to be a system that scales with you.
And it's not limited to a single project. So your entire collection can grow with you project by project. So while you're building exhibitions and creating content, adding objects, you're also building and expanding the collection at the same time. So from our perspective, keeping this flexible involves getting user feedback and updating a roadmap along the way.
So again, let's talk about who our audience is. We've been using some of those audience keywords throughout our conversation today. Here we're just again we're emphasizing cultural institutions, so that could be a library, archive, museum, science center, research institution, collectors, right? So there are many important collectors of works of art or collectors of other items. They're personal collectibles. It could be sports cards. It could be other things that spark their curiosity, maybe something that reflects popular culture, and they want to share those collections with people. And thinking about doing that in a smart way. And then we also have creators, people that are creating and want to share their creativity with others. And then of course our scholars, people that are using academic research and tools, and maybe doing both traditional scholarly publishing and things like journals or exhibition catalogs, but also value digital tools as a way to reach a broader audience. So Christa and Jason, how do you think about who your community is and how you want to invite them in?
So really, our community is anyone who works with, creates, or collects objects. So whether you're at a museum with a digital team or without one, whether your department has access to a collections management system or doesn't, we want to make this available to the people who are actually working with objects.
Right. And collectors, institutions, even designers and creators, they all have different needs. So but speaking as a designer and engineer, being able to catalog your project's portfolio flexibly is really valuable. So we really built a system that you can customize for any type of collection.
And scholars can use our tool when planning illustrations for a book project, or organizing objects for a proposed exhibition, or managing a research collection.
I also see a huge potential for independent scholars, people that aren't institutionally affiliated, who maybe may not have the resource support of an IT department or a larger organization to back them. This gives them the ability to create an academic quality or high level quality output with their web browser. And they don't need to have anything special installed on their computer. They don't need to get, buy into an expensive consortium. It's here.
Yes. For example, independent curators. This is a perfect system for organizing and showcasing their work.
To showcase their work. And again, there's so much more, I think, blending, as we've talked before, about scholars working in hybrid formats, multiple formats, wanting to participate in the traditions of their work in exhibition making and exhibition catalogs, but also understanding the benefits of the wider reach of the internet.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some core functionality. We've been talking about flexibility a lot. One of the great things about this tool is that you use structured data. What do we mean by that? So structured data is essentially an organization of your data. Typically, it's in a spreadsheet form. That's usually where most of us start. It could be also starting in a Word document, or you're organizing your information to its core elements. So in the example of a work of art, it might be the title of the work of art, the artist, maybe the date that it was created, its medium, its dimensions. If it's part of an institutional repository, maybe that number. So that's the structured data about the object. We talk about digital media, right? So pictures, video, digitized versions of documents, all the assets that go with that data. A really important one, which I know Christa can also celebrate with me here, is citations. So incorporating scholarly citations to other publications, maybe where you've researched and referenced in your work. And also, Jason, I think this is a big one, talking about usage analytics. So one of the things we don't, or it's harder to know in traditional museum context in the physical space, is how are people engaging with our exhibitions? How are they spending time here? How many people have come here? Many of us have seen maybe a security guard or museum staff person with a clicker, physical button clicker, clicking the number of people walking in a room. But for those of us in the digital world, working in digital applications, Jason, we're maybe used to Google Analytics, or we expect that every application we use provides us some insight into how our users are engaging it. So let's talk about the core functionality.
Can I start with analytics? Okay, so for analytics, privacy was our priority from the start. So we track object views, page views, which pages and objects are most popular, and visitation patterns over time. So, but it's completely privacy focused. So our exhibition analytics give you a clear picture of how people are engaging with your exhibition without compromising privacy.
And regarding structured data, you may have your own core tombstone data, your title, your date, your medium, but you can also use your own vocabulary for fields.
Yeah.
So you can add whatever additional data matters to you and your team, and you can add custom fields to the forms. So it's really designed to accommodate whatever information is critical to your collection and your projects.
Yeah, and we have what we call blueprints, which let you build custom forms for any part of the system around your objects. So if you need custom fields for an exhibition, you can add them. So when you create an exhibition or any other piece of content, all that data comes along with it. Same with digital media. So when you select objects for use in the system, you have access to all the original metadata for that asset. So for citations, we built a system where you can add footnotes and endnotes to your text blocks, and they aggregate automatically so you can have dynamic linked references.
Objects in Order is a SaaS product, software as a service system. It starts at a free tier and then it has advanced subscription levels. And why is a SaaS product important? Why is software as a service important? So you may be familiar with older software programs where you download an instance of it or it has an old version. And the problem sometimes with those is even though they're well intended and they are creative and they're helpful to a certain degree, the product doesn't evolve consistently. And so with a SaaS product, that product continues to improve and develop in the environment, and we can see those changes reflected in a positive way. So Jason, for those who are unfamiliar with SaaS, can you tell us why is a SaaS product and a SaaS model for objects in order important?
I mean, I think you described it pretty well. The SaaS model for us gives you, it will give you the latest version of the software continuously. So no maintenance, no plugins, and no reinstallation. But as the software evolves, you always have the current version. And like you were mentioning, like with traditional software, you have to purchase, download it, and then that version is what you're stuck with, right? And it may not work on the cloud. So the next release comes out, you don't have it. So SaaS eliminates that. And because, like I said, everything is cloud-based, it also includes hosting for your content and managing your data. So it's not just a subscription layer on top of something static.
Another thing that's also important for users to understand is that this takes away for the user some of the technical burden. They don't have to host their own service. They don't have to customize or build their own software from scratch. If they're not a developer, that's okay. The tool is available for them to use right now. And so for those that don't have as much technical skill and that are looking for more of a hosted provided solution, this fills the gap, I think, in that situation.
I'll also say that you are not locked into a multi-year contract.
Right.
So if you have a specific project that you know is going to take 10 months, you can use the system for that period and then decide what you want to do next. So we want the subscription options to be as flexible as the system itself.
Right. And speaking of flexibility there, so every subscription tier comes with a group of seats included. So you're not burdened having to manage additional seats. So with a subscription, you can invite collaborators right away.
Let's talk about some of the user support features at a high level. So one of the things I think is very exciting about this tool is the centralized dashboard, which gives you your overview of what your activities are. It'd be frustrating, I think, to be able to start on a project and not to be able to well, how do I go home? How do I start reorient myself and begin again? How do I find all the tools that I'm working with? Another feature we'll talk about more is the super handy practical guides, which appear that speak in very direct language to creators and users that guides them through like a knowledge base when they're making the things that they're making in the system, which is super helpful. I'm sure many of us have visited websites where we're trying to figure out how to make the thing, whether it's a presentation or a document or a playbook. We're like, well, where's the instructions on how to do this? And in the case of objects in order, they thought of that. It's right there for you. And it's a quick reference just a click away. So that's super helpful. And in terms of support, email support is something that you offer as well. So anything else you all want to highlight in this?
We are available. If someone has questions or runs into any issues, we will be right there to help.
And we respond to every email, and we've also built onboarding directly within the app. So on your first visit, you'll get a walkthrough showing you how the interface works. And if you need a refresher later, you can always revisit that. And the guides that Christa's written are available inside of the core sections of the app, so you can pull up a quick reference while you're working.
All right, now let's talk about some potential use cases. We've been hitting on that as we've been talking throughout the session today. So we'll address these with directness and quickness, since you've all been hearing about so many great things. But this just helps you kind of concretize this a bit more, really understand how you could use this. So we've talked about archives. So many museums or cultural institutions have incredible archives, and many of those archives use archival software, which is used to organize and manage collections. It may not always be public facing. Oftentimes, there's a gap between the managing those of archival collections for institutional purposes, for legal purposes, for research purposes, for curatorial purposes, and bringing those collections to a public. So this is a way that an archive could use to bring that public experience further. Anything else, Krista, you want to add here?
So archives have very different needs than, say, a museum's collection of
Right.
paintings. And whatever kind of archival material you're working with, you can customize the system to support your specific projects and workflows.
Collectors. So we'll talk about collectors just for a brief moment. So if you are a collector of, let's say, French literature from the 17th century, and you've digitized your original editions of these books, and you want to share that with the world because you're passionate about it and share your perspective, and also share it with your colleagues who are collectors and share it with institutions who may be interested in exhibiting your collections and bringing it to the public, this is a way to share that with them. So exciting stuff. Krista?
This really does help collectors become creators. You can take your collection of rare books or French literature, photos, prints, whatever it may be, and you can create custom content modules within our system. You can put together a slideshow for a colleague or build an exhibition to share with a gallery. Collectors can share what they're doing and building rather than having it hidden away in a spreadsheet.
Well, we've talked a lot about exhibitions, and we will more. Jason's already touched on the block-based approach in terms of designing things. But really, is there anything else you want to reaffirm in this high-level concept? I mean, exhibitions are sort of the epicenter of the product, and thinking about working with objects and communicating those. It's kind of a core ethos, I would say. Krista?
Absolutely. So again, we want to make sure that the exhibition experience is as flexible as possible.
Yeah.
You can decide which objects to include, what information to display, and you can determine the overall look and feel. And then you can always iterate, make updates, and let the project evolve over time.
Yeah, and there are a lot of general purpose website builders, but they aren't really built specifically for object collections or exhibitions. So this is a purpose-built tool designed to help you create professional digital exhibitions, but using your own objects, data, and media.
That's super important, Jason, because I mean, for those of us that have worked in institutions or with institutions that do post their exhibitions on the website, typically it's maybe one featured image of a featured object in the exhibition. Maybe you'll have a few additional images of objects and a brief explanation because websites were initially made for cultural institutions as part of marketing communications efforts.
Right.
They weren't initially designed to share collections online. And that's still a gap that some institutions face where their exhibition pages are really just an informational sheet, but don't give you the richness and the nuance. So I think that's an important distinction for your objects in order.
Right, right. I agree. So the reason we took a block-based approach is that it allows you to build your exhibition pages visually. So think of them as building blocks, right? So, or like Legos. So title blocks, text blocks, and also custom object blocks where you can highlight a specific object or a group of objects from your collection, and they can automatically populate for you. But we built it in this way that mirrors exhibition development, kind of allowing users to set up thematic sections, checklists, and other content.
So we have some other contextual features that we'll touch on, and we'll show some examples in just a little bit. So there's all kinds of rich media that you can add to the platform, which is really exciting. One of the huge features I think that speaks to the scholarly nature of the platform is catalog essays. So if you wanted to build your online catalog to match with your exhibition or just create the catalog as its own experience, as Krista talks about these as experiences. And one of the great things about this is that the entries that you create, they can be updated, right? One of the challenges in that siloed context of print is, are you going to republish that exhibition catalog in the future? Will you be updating the data and the text in those? Who knows? If you've done a collection catalog, there's typically years between museum highlight collection catalogs or directors catalogs. If you find a new item you want to add, if you find some new research with objects in order, you could update it with a touch of your fingers across the keys and it's done and readily be able to be shared. But there's so many exciting features we're going to talk about, but anything lightly here, Krista and Jason, you want to touch on?
You can keep your information current as new scholarship emerges. And as you work on projects around your collection, you can keep building and adding to the exhibition. So it really becomes a living resource. And I'm so glad that you mentioned adding an essay to an exhibition. So you can add links, you can add scholarly references, And that helps the exhibition really truly be an experience, not just a static display.
Sorry. Yeah, and this also extends to audio tours and video as well. So you could attach audio tour, like speaking of updating, you can attach audio tours to the entire exhibition or to individual objects. So imagine a QR code in a physical gallery that links directly to the digital exhibition. And then visitors get an audio tour right there. So this automatically accompanies the real world experience.
So future applications, I think we won't delve too far into the future, but I think one of the exciting things as we've been talking about is because of the iterative nature of the product and how it's flexible and changing all the time is it can have a future. One of the challenges with traditional exhibitions and publications is they have a beginning and an end, and the containers and formats that they're packaged in are limited. In the case of the physical exhibition, the walls may get repainted, the artwork's taken down, and the vitrines emptied, and new objects placed and moved around. In the case of the printed book, the binding is attached and people read the book and it goes on the shelf in their home or in the library, but it's a defined, containerized experience. And with objects in order, there is a future. I think that's, for me, one of the exciting things about it.
We are always adding to the roadmap, and we love hearing feature requests from the people using our system.
Right. And the flexibility of the system is actually reflected in how we build the application itself. So it's flexible enough on our end that we can keep expanding the capabilities while everyone else benefits from those improvements in real time. So as new standards and new uses emerge, we have a rapid way to deploy them.
Fantastic. So now we're going to go through some highlighted features, some of which we've already touched upon already. So we'll be going through those and showing you some visual examples that you can dive deeper on if you sign into the platform, or you can learn more through the resources on the website. So first, we'll talk about the API. This will be a JSON question, but what is an API, an application programming interface, and why is that so important for structuring the data and managing the data within the application?
Yeah, the API is primarily for developers or really anyone comfortable working with code or technology. So the benefit is that it gives you direct access to your data, your collection data. If you want to automate updates between our system and another collection system, you can do that with the API. So if you need to make updates in objects in order, you can pull that data into your other sites or properties. So it allows you to build custom reporting tools, admin interfaces, and custom backups. So, but it's not really meant to replace our system, but ensures your data is always accessible.
It's important infrastructure, and for those of us that have spent a lot of time in creating online exhibitions or working with collections management systems, the spreadsheet doom. This is a way from an infrastructure standpoint. There's always spreadsheets involved at some point, and they are a valuable tool. But for those who are more technically inclined and want to do things in a more robust way, that this is available to them is, I think, a really significant resource.
Oh, exactly. Developers and technical users can utilize their data in more expansive ways that might not be possible within other systems or even with spreadsheets.
Awesome. Bibliography, I think this will be one exciting one for Christa to hit on too. But again, thinking about this blurring between the publications and exhibitions and the hybrid nature and the dual nature of objects in order, one of the things I think is most exciting about the platform is it allows you to share the citations of the research, much like you would in an academic paper in a journal or in an exhibition catalog. And for those who are students, graduate students, professors, researchers, curators, scientists that are looking for the history of their intellectual work and want to have that documented, this is a tool that allows you to do that in a very robust way. And I think one of the most exciting things is you can also link externally to other sources and sites. So Christa, and then to add here about bibliography.
Yeah, when you create an exhibition, you can add a bibliography page from the start, or you can add it later. So this gives you a dedicated space to record all of the resources that you've consulted or used in your research. And it's a living document. As more research comes out, you can definitely add those new references and grow this bibliography. For your visitors, it's really meant to be a space for them to discover resources that they might not have known about, and also to be able to dive deeper into what they're seeing in the exhibition.
Terrific. So here's an example. So this is from an exhibition that Christa created on the website that's available for people to learn about. And this gives you a quick view of how those resources show the bibliography. So this is just an example of that.
Yeah, this is just a subpage under the essay in the exhibition.
Jason's talked a bit about analytics already. So I think we'll just take a look at the picture here, the example. And Jason, anything here you want to point out to us that are in the analytics that you mentioned?
This is exactly what we're looking at. So you can view analytics for the last 24 hours, 7 days, 15 days, or 30 days. We also store longer term data, but you can download it as CSV for use in Excel or any other spreadsheet tool. And it gives a quick overview of visitation patterns, and it's built into each exhibition.
The guides we mentioned before, we don't have a picture of those, but Christa, can you just give a quick reference of what the guides are once again?
I am the author of the guides, and we always want them to be visual, clear, and definitely very focused. Each one is going to walk you through how to use a specific part of the system. That way, you'll have the insights and the options that you need. And we are always adding and updating the guides, and we will include a link to the guides page below this video.
Fantastic. The notes block, both Krista and Jason have touched on that. And this, I think, really speaks to the configurability of the system. Jason refers to them as building blocks, but we'll show you an example of the notes block. And Krista, maybe you go, and Jason, you can walk us through how this works in practice.
Well, this is a text block where you can type in or paste in existing text if you have it. You highlight either a word or a phrase and you enter your citation, and then you click apply. And then if you go to the next screen, when you add a notes block to the end of your article or your essay, it automatically collates all the notes that you've added to your text blocks. It numbers them, it puts them in the correct order. And then when someone is viewing the exhibition online, they can hover over that portion, over the reference text, to see the citation inline, or they can scroll down and see all the notes below the article.
Right. And it, like what Krista just said, basically it aggregates across all the text blocks on an exhibition page. And that pulls all the notes together into one clean list. So, and you add those with the note block, right? So the notes block itself is flexible in how it displays. You can position your footnotes at the bottom of the article or put them in a sidebar, so they're visible as you scroll. It gives you control over how the references appear alongside your content.
Excellent, which again takes into account the digital interface for this, right? And our use of screens as opposed to looking at a label in a room. We've talked a bit about the roadmap. I think it's just important to show here that on the website you can find the roadmap. And so those updates will be available there. I think it's a really important feature that Objects in Order provides. Not all software companies share their roadmaps, share what they're working on, but that is really important for users, right? When they're investing in a platform, is where is this going? If I invest my time, my energy, my resources into this, will it be around? Can I have confidence that this is something I should put my effort into? And I think the roadmap speaks to your intention of working towards that goal. So we're going to show you some example resources that will better help you understand the system. And many of these are linked on the Objects in Order website, or they're found elsewhere on YouTube. So we'll talk about first the Museum of Objects. And Krista, why don't you tell us about the Museum of Objects?
The Museum of Objects is our demonstration site. It's a real website for a fake museum, and it shows a collection view that's powered by our API. So you can browse the collection. Again, these are open access and open content images. And then you can also explore many sample digital exhibitions. And then on the About page, you can read about how the data and the images are being pulled in and displayed.
Fantastic. Next is just the example exhibition, Krista, that you made. We're going to reference that again. So Krista, again, it's important, I think for the users to know that you are an art historian and you come from this background, and this is an exhibition that you made. And so tell us just very briefly about this example exhibition and how people can understand how it might help them in thinking about their own work.
Well, this is a small digital exhibition featuring 18 prints, Jacques Callot's Miseries and Misfortunes of War, which is drawn from a section of my dissertation. And really, this provided a wonderful opportunity to revisit that research and to create an exhibition with real scholarly content as an example. So it has an essay, it has translations of the inscriptions, and a resources page with all of the bibliography. It also shows that an exhibition does not have to have 200 objects. It can be a focused project like this one, which is a really nice way to share research with a wider
I think,
audience.
Krista, too, this really highlights the benefit of using a tool like this for those types of collections that can't regularly be on view. For those of us that come from the museum world, we know that works on paper, photographs, prints, other objects made of sensitive materials can only be displayed physically for a limited period of time. But a tool like this enables us to see those at high resolution with additional research and context in a much better way. And I'm actually a print historian myself. My background was in German and American prints between the two world wars, which is a different time period than this. But one of the other challenges with works on paper in museum collections or libraries or archive is the volume of that material. And so it can be very challenging, even in regular rotations, to show the depth and breadth of a collection in the physical space. But a tool like this allows curators and fellows, especially, or students, that are maybe interns or doing research, to use the vastness of a collection, but still keep their scholarly rigor and bring that forward with how they communicate with the public.
Yeah, nicely put.
Oh, thanks. So we do have a demo video that's available as well, and that's available on the Objects in Order YouTube page right now. So check that out, and we'll have a link to that so you can see it as well. And that gives you an overview led by Krista of the software. So let's wrap it up. Let's bring in our concluding concepts here for you today, and thank you all who have watched this far. You're deep in it with us, and we appreciate you being here. Or if you skipped ahead, that's great too. So we'll talk about integration again. You can combine that scholarly rigor with the digital agility for dynamic experiences. We've hit on that quite a bit. Jason's talked about it from the technical standpoint of the APIs. Krista's talked about it quite a bit from content development. So I think we've hit on that. Transformation, transforming these resources and assets into immersive, citable, and analytical experiences and processes. So again, taking something from one format and transforming it into another and back into something else. Engagement. This is content that can be engaged with at the accessibility of a URL, of a website address, of the touch of a button, of a click, which is incredible. That's an incredible, powerful thing that is available through this tool. And it really opens up so many doors for people and helps blur those boundaries in a good way. And it brings things right into the hands of users. Empowerment. Again, thinking about the diversity of users and how that can grow with so many different ways through iterative development and the clarity of the inquiry. And I just want to thank Krista and Jason so much for the chance to dialogue and collaborate with them on this process. For me, Neal Stimler at Stimler Advantage, thank you for your time and your interest. And thank you, Krista and Jason from Objects in Order.
Neal, thank you so much. You have asked really thoughtful questions and made so many terrific points. And we truly appreciate you taking the time to collaborate and to write the article that we have linked below this video.
Yeah, and it's great to have your perspective on what we're building. So many thanks. And I hope I wasn't too technical or too in the weeds.
Well, it's good to have technical perspective. It's good to have the user perspective and the creator perspective. And I think we just want to end with an emphasis of a welcome, encouraging people to come try the platform, come check it out, start making creative, cool things, start making your scholarly projects, start making your collection, and share those with the world, share this with the constituents that matter to you. And let's bring some objects in order together and make some fun stuff. Thanks, everyone.